and locked in. So when the other team already locks in their AP champion, you don't necessarily have to rush your pick, especially if it's going to counter them. Give them a little bit more time to think over it, pick your higher priority champions in the meanwhile. But of course, I love Terra Graves as a combination, but Crescendo can be landed. You can flash Crescendo from even longer range than you can flash Dazzle and go into a combination there. And it does look like an Olaf pickup as well. So top Olaf, jungle Nautilus seems to be the order of the day.
Oh, that would be really cool. I love watching Olaf. And I've lost it. Swapping from Galio to Kassadin.
Oh, man.
Now that's interesting for me because Xpeka's Kassadin is immensely good. He's very, very strong with the champion. His positional play is usually very, very good as well. And if memory serves correctly, he used him to great effect at IEM Gamescom a little while ago. I'm going to have to see whether or not that is going to be able to, if he's going to be able to put enough damage down against a Morgana. The nice thing about Morgana is she has to, get through the creep wave before she can capture Xpeke with the Dark Binding. So in theory, the lower level farming may be slightly easier for Kassadin as opposed to, a slightly different AP mid. Shusha in the top lane, it could be Nautilus. It could be Nautilus.
It could be.
But it will most likely be now Olaf and on Shusha because he will be facing off against an Udyr in that top lane. So we are going to see a repick or a blind pick remake very, very shortly because we do have a placeholder here. So let's see what happens at the moment. So there we go. We have just dropped out and we're going to be jumping straight back into the game. Dak's going to remake. All right, so we're waiting for the players to just decide. We could just redo the tournament draft, but it looks as though they want to do a remake. So while that is going on, guys, I'm going to do one more shameless bump. If you've had some fun with us today, head over to Facebook, facebook.com/intolol. It's a project that I'm currently working on and will be promoting from next week onwards. Facebook.com/intolol. Give me some likes, guys. It helps me get my stuff off the ground. And Zotia, he's chilling. He's going to be on facebook.com/GGChronicle, caster and streamer for GG Chronicle. You can also find him on Twitter @lolzotia. So head over, throw some love. And don't forget, of course, that we are doing the Dreamhack MSI Beat It tournament, sponsored by MSI and SteelSeries. So I'm going to throw up my camera really quickly, just in case passwords are shared. I'm invited.
I was still waiting in the last game, but then finally the last person left. So do try to get me an invite into that, unless we have information as to the game information. Game name.
You should be invited shortly if I have typed your name correctly. Yep. So your invite should be on its way.
Awesome.
And we can bring the game back up.
There it is indeed, and dropping down, all set and golden, ready to go. So we are just getting the players back in. For everyone, these are the most common questions asked. Why Eve? Eve was a placeholder for Nautilus, apparently. Where's Melisson? Melisson's busy studying. Why no Darius? Darius is apparently banned for today. I'm not sure if banned for the entirety of the Dreamhack qualifiers, but probably. And any more questions? Why Kassadin against Morgana? I don't know. Only time will tell. We shall see.
Well, what I like as well is the champions and the teams are all ready. Kassadin Morgana, so nervous, so scary. Bottom lane, Corki Soraka against, Graves Sona. That's also going to be a big one. And the top lane is going to be very, very exciting. Olaf and Udyr continually bashing one another in the face. It's going to be very, very cool.
Yeah, two pretty standard top lanes. Two people that are really, really hard to trade with. Two people that also received nerfs very recently, but they both received kind of equal nerfs on each side of the coin. Of course, Reckless Blow, the cooldown was reduced for Olaf, or actually increased for Olaf. Meanwhile, Turtle Stance Shield was reduced a little bit in the amount of defense it gives. I think at later levels, just down 20 or so hit points. Both still very strong top laners, very hard to push out of lane. But we shall see how it turns out, who gets more gank assistance. I always favor Purple Team for their top lane presence and ability to have ganks. And that being said, Olaf... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you consider that, that's still effective and in place when Nocturne is only really very strong from level 6. And Ragnarok from Shusha is going to be able to break the fear, it's going to be able to break the slow and run away.
I think that's a good point. Olaf, of course, really hard to gank after 6. That being said, I like Nocturne's ganks pre-6 too. I mean, he has a speed boost in his Shroud of Darkness. I believe that's the name of his Q. And then, of course, the Fear is a great addition to red buff. Provided he can land that Fear, that, turns into very successful ganks. So I think he has good presence prior to 6, has great presence after 6, but, that is a good point. At 6, he might want to change his attention towards middle, but of course, then again, at level 6, Kassadin, incredibly hard to gank as well.
This game can go either way. This game has got champions that are great early, great mid, and great late game. They've got one or two that sort of fall off. Graves, for example, will... after the 25, 30, 35-minute mark, slowly start dealing less DPS than Corki, but he still has that burst from buckshot collateral damage. You've got Sona, who has the ability to do an AoE stun, but you've got Soraka, who has a map-wide heal. There is so much in this game, and I think whoever gets an early advantage will probably be able to run away with it. I know Fnatic, I've watched them. I watched them at OGN. I watched them earlier this week. If they start to be snowballed against, they tend to struggle to pull themselves out of that sort of position.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's pretty common for just about every team, professional or not. The only two teams that really come to mind that do well when they're in a bind, well, we actually have another team that comes to mind in the U.S., but I'm not sure if they're big overseas. Team Legion tends to get down early and then come back, and they do that pretty consistently. But CLG also is really good at, losing, or, not losing early game, but, not really doing anything exceptional early game and then coming back. And then I think it was in IPL 4, we saw M5, who actually got behind CLG a couple times, and I was like, oh, this is probably over, and M5 came back. So they're kind of in my mind as a comeback team as well. That being said, they're not often behind, but when they do get behind, they do have that potential to come ahead.
Those were the games that were like 40, 45, 50 minutes long, and they just managed to pull a victory out of absolutely nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would love to see what's going to be happening now at the moment, because of course we are into the last 20 seconds. Skins are beginning to be coming up. So one more ad break, and we'll be back with the semi-final, Fnatic versus Millenium. So I'm keeping a close eye on chat at the moment, and it looks as though the official announcement for IPL 5 is going to be up shortly. So my apologies, James. I got excited. Panky told me, and then I just told everyone, so my bad.
I heard some people saying, oh, Kassadin against Morgana to, make sure her ultimate doesn't land. And I've actually seen Kassadin against Galio to great effect, using that silence to make sure he doesn't land a well-timed Idol of Duran. But, of course, Morgana has her own Black Shield that will, cancel out that silence, potentially. So let us look. Oh, Broloff. You cannot root against Broloff. That being said, no skin on Nautilus, no skin on Nocturne. So junglers apparently not getting enough IP. Someone needs to infuse them with more IP so they can buy some skins.
Letting the side down. But I have to admit, I am quite possibly in love with Brolaf. The sound files, the taunts, your mom's OP. I love it. I love it. So
I always root for him dying because I love that dude and whatever else he says. So that's going to be my only motivation. This game against Shusha, I want to see him die. So I hear Broloff getting upset, very mildly upset.
Excuse me for 1 second. My Alt tab is dying on me, so I need to update this overlay. If I've done this correctly, Fnatic versus Millenium. Fnatic in the blue shorts on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Millenium wearing the red shorts on the top right-hand side of your screen. Loser goes out. Loser does not qualify for Sunday's games. Pack their bags, go home crying. And there's a lot on the line.
I love the blue shorts, purple shorts reference. I'm just wondering which side is the challenger side. I guess it would be purple side, would it not? As blue side generally gets first pick.
Correct. The general rule of thumb is the highest seed gets first pick, and they feature on the bottom left-hand side of the map. So I suppose in the challenger corner, Millenium all the way from France over the internet. And Archagod, Sinful Succulence Morgana. I'm really looking forward to this game.
It turned out really well for them last time they ran that skin. Didn't miss a Dark Binding all game, and I'm saying that a little bit facetiously. Did miss some, but some very stellar ones, really catching people out. It caught the AD carry a couple times, and when you can do that, catch the AD carry with the Dark Binding, which has like 1350 range or something like that, that is the recipe for success in a team fight. We do see... Oh.
Yes, that looked a bit scary. Moving towards the race. We've seen that once today and it ended up in a double kill, right. First blood. But look at this.
We saw Millenium do this before. Is it going to happen again?
No, I don't know because Xpeke is not coming through. Oh, as I say that, looks, he's thinking about it. Now, Fnatic would probably not have watched that game earlier. Theo's Najik is coming for the Dark Binding misses because of the way it's been pulled. Cyanide is now going to take some huge amounts of damage. Ignite goes down. And Millenium pick up first blood once again from a very, very cheeky blue buff invade.
And they pick up the blue buff as well. Of course, Cyanide was really afraid, just ran away, gave up the blue buff, which is, his only call, but he still got caught out by Udyr. Now, the one thing is, Udyr does not have Flash or Ignite here, so Olaf could potentially try to take advantage, although Sushi taking a Tiger Strike to the face, and that is not a good plan. That is certainly not a good plan. At level 1, Udyr's trades are a lot better than Olaf's. Now that Olaf is level 2, he could potentially try to, at any point, if the lane is overextended, could land one Undertow, one Axe, and then just hit Ghost and keep on chasing after that Udyr, and would probably come ahead of that as he would have Reckless Blow, which he hasn't leveled up yet, incidentally. And his Ignite and Ghost, of course.
Oh, there we go. Finally, the Reckless does go up. I think Shusha is definitely going to have to put a point into his Vicious Strikes as early as possible because he's going to need that lifesteal. He's not going to be able to stay in lane from, a Turtle Stance Udyr that's going to be able to replenish his mana, replenish his hit points, and just control the lane by being able to sustain himself a little bit longer.
Yeah, and we've seen every time there's been, Sushi has gone in for one CS, it's been an instant Tiger Strike into the face of Sushi. Really great timing so far by, is it Fios? Anyways,
yeah,
very great
go
play by
Fios.
Udyr.
Go with Fios. Sorry about the nicknames. Unfortunately, the South African and American casters, we can't speak your languages. Yeah, exactly. I used to play.
We have trouble with English.
I used to play a game on my chat a few weeks ago where I'd say hello in chat, introduce yourself, and I will ruin your nickname for you. And I would do my best to pronounce people's nicknames, and it was embarrassing from time to time.
I like that game, though. Oh, and Undertow is landed there, and Cyanide going up top. This could be trouble for Fios. No flash.
There comes the stun. The Riptide lands. Ignite has gone out as well, but the damage being put down onto Shusho was immense. Nautilus does manage to pick up that last hit with the Titan's Wrath, so at the very least, he does get a kill back. Oh, boom, baby. Shusha as well, get a little bit of free farm. There's no ward in this river, so Shusha's got to be very, very careful. Magic might be able to put some pressure down.
Yeah, little known fact, or it might be well known, but I mean, First Blood is very important, but if you get First Blood and there's no assist for that First Blood, it's actually not as good as a kill that is assisted in overall gold. That being said, Nocturne actually did get the assist for First Blood, so that is, that does account for that 200 extra gold that Millenium is ahead so far. That being said, top lane is known to snowball pretty well, and the other bonus is Shushay still has his Ghost coming up, so he can still use that offensively. Fios might have wanted to back out there. There was no way he was getting away, but it might have granted Nocturne a little bit more time to come in and assist, as Nocturne came in kind of right at the end of that battle.
Now, having a look at the middle lane, somebody was asking on chat to have a look at XPK's runes. He's currently level 5, so he's got a few levels up already. 823 hit points, 9 and then 10% spell vamp, 43 armor, 36 magic resist. That looks like a hit point rune page.
That could be a flat hit point rune page. I mean, it's been so funny because people just stopped using those, fortification runes, those quintessences at some point. Once they got nerfed from, I think, 32 hit points to 28, no one used them anymore, whereas the previously, the highest choice for that. But yeah, I can't really fathom what other runes he's going. I know HP per level seals are kind of coming into play, especially for middle champions, because it gives them a little bit of extra survivability at level 6 from that burst.
I'm having a look just to the champions' skills and rune sets at the moment. And talking about all the runes that have been selected, Lamia once again going 21 and then 10% on that armor pen. Attack damage of 79 with no Doran's blades or any of the items to give it up. So you can assume that's armor pen and an AD rune page.
Right, that's pretty standard.
Nothing too far out of the way. The great dredge line. Arca God is going to be able to negate the depth charge, compliments of the Black Shield. Shushay is a little bit overextended. Nijek is level 4, and Cyanide is level 6. All that time in lane was able to help. Shushay does have Ragnarok up, so he is going to use that to run away. You can hear him yelling, Bromacia, as he escapes to victory. Manages to survive the Ignite, and very cheekily just recalls out in the middle of the lane. Doesn't even go back to his tower.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Of course, pro players tend to be more efficient than we standard immortals. But that being said, just backing right there, a little bit unusual. Down bottom, it looks like Corki's really putting out the damage on Graves there. That Phosphorus Bomb combination, really strong. And yeah, I'm impressed by how quickly Cyanide got to level 6. But that being said, he was just camping out lanes, whereas obviously other people were in the jungle or being pushed out of lanes. Interestingly enough, we see another pickup for Cyanide going for those boots of mobility first before any GP10 items.
Look at this bottom lane right here. Cassidy coming forward, but Soraka and Corki knowing something was up. Lots of champions missing and they fell back. That was a 4-man potential Fnatic tower dive.
Yeah, it was, but at the same time they knew that Nautilus was coming in through that tri-bush. He showed himself, so, I mean, they were relatively safe from him, and Graves and Sona weren't able to step up to the plate either. So Fnatic, or Xpeka, kind of goes in there and essentially wastes his Ignite. Really doesn't do too much, gives Lamia a little bit of breathing room, but now he has, less burst if he wants to go toe-to-toe in the mid lane against this Morgana, and, doesn't really have that opportunity of that, incredible amount of burst that he would be afforded with Ignite.
Now, what I like to point out, keep an eye on the farm. Bottom lane, 62 to 62, bang on even. Top lane, 42 to 50, relatively even. That early gank puts Shushay a little behind. Mid lane, 49 to 67. Xpeke currently 18 behind.
Oh,
and
man.
What a great dark binding from Arcagod.
That was beautiful. I didn't even see the dark binding. I don't even know how that landed. Like, it might have glitched out on my screen, but like Xpeke obviously Rift walked in, but then just got caught by that binding. Of course, it's not unusual for Kassadin to be behind in farm against a Morgana, for instance, who has, completely, relatively easy farm, just torment soil the ranged minions at all times.
Xpeke, he's now committing. No blue buff on Arcagod. He's going to be moving out of the way. There comes the stun. Another one of the things. That long-range dredge line. Now the paranoia dive comes forward. Xpeke, the fear proc is probably going to make it secure the kill.
Oh, man.
And Nijak takes his blue buff backwards. Or takes a blue buff, rather.
Yeah, and he's actually, that, turned out pretty well for them. Did Morgana pick up the assist as well? I believe so. So, actually a good exchange because, Millenium is coming away with a blue buff and has their blue buff still in tow, still in the jungle. So now Nocturne, who actually is one of the junglers that I feel really needs blue buff to really continue farming at, optimal pace, is going to have a blue buff and is going to be able to give away a blue buff to Morgana. And I think, that gank probably would have gone a little bit better had Kassadin still had Ignite, and he probably would have been able to get away. He just wouldn't have had to commit, that extra little bit.
I do see something in the top lane that I like a lot. Shushay, he's been ganked several times. He's been on lane 20 CS behind at this point in time. But he does have a Heart of Gold and a Philosopher's Stone ticking over. In comparison, only the Heart of Gold sitting on Udyr at the moment. And look at the way he's leveling up his Olaf. 2 points into Undertow, 4 points into Reckless Swing. Not a single point into Vicious Strikes yet.
Yeah, he's pretty confident in his ability to out-trade Fios at this point, and he's actually, if the last, 5 trades or so have been any indication, he's been doing a really good job of landing Reckless Swing and not being Tiger Strike. Of course, Caster's Curse, as soon as I say that, he gets a Tiger Strike to the face and, takes quite a bit of damage from it. He's posturing like he's going to be aggressive against Udyr, but I don't think he is. I think he's just kind of
That's just Shushay. That's just the way he moves, and that's just the way he positions himself. Bottom lane, trades going back and forth as well at the moment, but nothing really coming of it. 91 CS on Corki, 84 on Graves. So Fnatic slowly falling behind in the farm, but nothing to write home about just yet.
Yeah, an unusual ward by Shushay as well in that top bush. I don't know that, I would be very surprised if Millenium knows that it's there.
There goes the undertow. Depth charge goes out. Shusha immediately backs off. He's afraid of Nijek. The ignite goes down as well as the Ragnarok. One more undertow should be enough to do it. He's not going to be able to tick over. The turtle stance saves the damage. And the wish coming out from Soraka.
Yep, it was a
Great
combination
play by
of Turtle
Dax.
Stance and Wish. Really great combination from Millenium and a great counter gank in that top lane. And we see that so frequently now because top lane is kind of like the gank lane. Oh, down
There
bottom.
goes the crescendo.
Down.
Buckshot, collateral damage. Ignite is ticking over 140, 100, but not enough to pick up that kill. The Valkyrie too strong from Corki. And the single Vamp Scepter, Doran's Blade is just not enough AD on Lamia.
Not quite enough. How much gold do they have in store? 985. Could go back and buy a pickaxe. I mean, a lot of people don't like buying early pickaxes, but the truth of the matter is it actually gives you, I believe the same AD per gold as a BF sword would. So if you go back and buy it, I mean, you're suddenly stronger in lane. You know, it's not great, obviously, if you're going to go the Lamia build that we saw last time where you rushed Bloodthirster, but if you are going to go into Infinity Edge, then there's no problem in just getting that pickaxe a little bit earlier on.
Keeping a close eye on the lanes at the moment. What did Graves pick up? He has recalled. And let's see if your prediction is correct. There's your pickaxe. So, well played.
I think you called it. You said, oh, he just needed a little bit more damage. But, you know, it's kind of funny because they had such a good, they had a pretty good offensive there. They got Corki really low. But by virtue of Soraka being Soraka, you know, Corki is suddenly full and they pick up the first dragon of the game.
Yep.
That is at 1250. The next dragon will be up 1850. That is 6 minutes there, of course. Cyanide, meanwhile, this is the second game in a row where Fnatic has been, you know, essentially missing out on dragons, and Cyanide has picked up an Oracle right after dragon has been taken, or right at the same time the dragon has been taken. So relatively interesting there. I always feel like Oracle's really used for taking control of those objectives, those dragons, but Cyanide not going to be able to take control of it because it is gone. And Millenium 3-2 lead and a 2,000 gold lead. Meanwhile, Udyr kind of beast moding up top, doing more damage than Olaf is. So Shusha was playing a really stellar game, out trading for a while there, but that last gank just didn't go in their favor, and
keep
now
in
the
mind
lane
though,
seems to have turned around.
even though Udyr is having his way a little bit with Olaf in that top lane, the CS difference is still only 20. It's still sitting at the same number that it was, you know, 3 or 4 minutes ago. So we got to keep track of that. Even if Olaf is or Shusha is on the back foot, as long as he's not falling further behind, it's not the end of the world. In the mid lane, though, Xpeke 94 CS to the 127 of Archegod, rather.
I always feel like Katsunin can do more with less farm than a lot of other AP carries. Obviously, he needs to pick up the kills. Only has 1 kill under his belt. But now I'm talking about him going to gank, but Morgana's actually going to gank. It looks like Fnatic kind of had an idea that was happening, so they kind of backed off. But they actually did not have wards in place to spot him coming down. Just kind of sensed it with their sixth spider sense or whatnot. But Udyr also has his own Heart of Gold up top, and I feel like, you know, those are fine items for Olaf, the Philosopher's Stone and the Heart of Gold, but neither of those items that those build into are really ideal for Olaf. Whereas I like Randuin's Omen on Udyr, and I just feel like it is kind of a better selection for him.
Take a look at the gold difference with the GP5s taking over. Shusha at the moment 3,700 gold. Fiaz sitting on 4,700 gold. So those 2 kills, the farm advantage, 1,000 gold difference at the 15-minute mark, and that's a pretty big number. Now we do see Xpeke sitting up in the top lane. He doesn't have any charges on that Rift Walk, and Ensign Vag, he sees it, so the silence is going to go out. Huge damage. 1 Rift Walk over the wall, and that Force Pulse as well as the Silence Bubble, what's it actually called? The Null Sphere. Chunks off a huge amount of hit points from Corki.
Yeah, but then it just gets healed up immediately thereafter. So another, you know, wasted time for both the jungle and the mid lane, because of course Cyanide was waiting down in that brush. They're really trying to, you know, quad gank bottom, but anytime Cassidy goes missing, they play very, very conservatively, back off, and, you know, it's kind of a function, well, I don't know if it's a function of Lamia's play or Graves, the fact that the lane is always pushed to Corki and Soraka's turret. Of course, Buckshot does push lanes, but on the other hand, Corki tends to push lanes as well. He just has been, you know, restraining himself, whereas Lamia has been running in and buckshotting at every single opportunity.
Well, I'm very, very nervous about the bottom lane at the moment. The damage that Corki's putting out with that BF Sword and Vamp Scepter, One auto attack and Phosphorus Bomb is enough to drop Felox's health below half. And exactly like you said, at the moment, Ensign Vag is controlling the lane a little bit more superiorly, or a little bit better.
Oh,
wow, that was a terrible
This is going to be amusing, though. Morgana's actually caught out there. Oh!
Immediately blows up, and Rift walks away. That was very nicely played by Xpeke. The control, the flash, he burned flash for that, yeah. You know, Rift walk in, used that null sphere, and flashed out instantaneously. Managed to pick up a kill, and 2 assists were awarded for that as well.
Yeah, and that's what Kassadin does for you. It was kind of amusing because Archigod, stepped out of the brush to land the Dark Binding on Graves, and I really thought that was going to go more in favor of Millenium, but Kassadin is just so tricky, has so much mobility, so much burst damage. He's like the best of both worlds, decent AP carry and great assassin. So yeah, certainly picking up those kills, that kind of evens the odds, and he's making Morgana follow him. So Morgana's only 26 CS ahead, and that's, substantial, but it's not to be, it's not unexpected by any means.
And that I'm very nervous about as well. Look at Fios in the top lane, 5 points into his Tiger stance. It's currently ticking over for 395 damage over 2 seconds. And it's of course magic damage, and that can be applied every time the ability is back up. So every 6 seconds, he's able to reapply that on-hit damage. And Olaf just doesn't have the sustain to get through that right now. He's sitting on a Kindle Gem, Philo Stone, and Heart of Gold. And I wonder if that's going to be a really early Shurelia's.
Yeah, it is, and I've actually seen that build before. I saw Hotshot build that. I don't like it. I mean, it's just not... I don't feel like it's ideal. I feel like you need a little bit of tankiness, and as has been proven in this game, Udyr's really dominating that matchup. You can only really go GP10 if you have a really, really sturdy matchup and some gank assist, because otherwise you are at a disadvantage, and we've seen that so far. Udyr building up to his Trinity Force, it's just going to be stronger, for so much longer than Olaf is. And at what point are those GP10s really going to pay off? Is, an Olaf with Reverie and Randuin's Omen going to be stronger than, Udyr
with the same,
with a Trinity Force? Yeah. I mean, and just skipping that Reverie. Reverie is an awesome item, probably one of the best items in the game, especially from a support position, but really just a great item, has such great initiating, counter-initiating potential, but at the same time, not really something you want a Bruiser to build, because it's giving you a lot of regeneration, whereas you need just brute force tank ability to survive in those team fights, especially when he's going to go against this Corki. Corki's going to blow him up. That's kind of my guess so far. Obviously, Corki's going to be very frightened of Olaf, but at the same time, his whole plan is going to turn around and just blow him up while he has that extra, armor from Soraka and a little bit of heal percent. Oof. And we do see Millenium setting up for this dragon.
And if 4 or 5 champions sitting in this bottom tri-bush, Paranoia is available for Nocturne. I don't know if you were watching it. Keep an eye on the Kassadin Morgana battle that's happening in the middle. When they do actually reset, Xpeke landed a Null Sphere and a Force Pulse, and it chunked off Morgana's hit points like you cannot believe. The numbers got reduced huge amounts, and I was very, very surprised. So this is the second dragon of the game. Millenium will be able to pick this up completely uncontested. Fnatic, they do know what's going on. They're considering challenging it, but they're too late to the party. Invite didn't arrive. The postal service didn't give them their letter in time. And huge pressure in the middle. I'm going to have to rewind that one.
You know what does deliver? Kassadin and a Null Sphere to the face. Man, that was just a ton of damage, and they're picking up a turret at the same time. Now, I don't believe that Najik had an Oracle, but man, that is just a ton of damage there. Really, oh wow, nice dodge by Xpeke. Oh, going to town on Morgana. Diving in here, Wish has to be used. Xpeke, oh my goodness, picks up the kill. Is going to lose those double buffs to Udyr, but man.
Just jumped now onto the middle lane, so let's have a look what's happening. This is now Xpeke putting some damage down into Archigod. Tanks a couple of turret hits. There goes the Wish. Soul Shackles comes out. Xpeke's going to get stunned up. He does pick up the kill, but Fios' Tiger Stance manages to wrap it up in the background.
Uh-oh.
And now all of a sudden, huge fight. I'm keeping a close eye. Cyanide now goes down. The damage going on to Entenvex is huge. They cannot be locked up or stunned. Fios was locked up, compliments of the crescendo, and now Shusha is going to be running away. Oh, what is Fios doing? He's too close to Udyr. You cannot take that damage. Paranoia is going to be now another death. So that's going to even it out at 6-6, and the 2,000 gold difference is still in play.
Oh, that is a little bit interesting. What time is it on your game right now?
I'm just fast forwarding to real time. I had rewinded it. Yep, I had rewinded it to catch the Kassadin Morgana battle in the middle. But
My
that's us now
apologies. 'Cause
back up to
I was
live.
like, oh, we might have messed up, which actually sometimes happens in spectator mode as well. One person will get stepped behind. But yeah, it looks. I mean, it is a very even matchup here. Millenium taking the lead, did take down that middle turret. Olaf took down top turret, but they have those 2 dragons under the belt, which actually accounts for the essentially the entirety of the difference. And this is the second game in a row we've seen Fnatic be like, I don't really care about dragon. Kind of like an old CU strategy. Lately, they've started paying attention to dragon because dragon is worth essentially 2 kills. Now, certainly you don't want to challenge it if you're going to lose kills, but at the same time, it is relatively important. And we saw in that fight, Olaf did pick up a kill. But an interesting, so he has Shirelli as referee, but he also has an elixir of fortitude. And why I find that interesting is because GP10 items are generally, okay, well, I'm going to build these items so I'm really strong late game, whereas the elixir of fortitude is like, okay, well, I really want to be strong right now. So he has kind of counter intentions with his items and consumables. That being said, maybe it'll turn out well for him. I just am a little bit skeptical. I really feel like that Udyr with a Trinity Force, with a Heart of Gold, with another Ruby Crystal probably going to be built into a Phage. I just feel like he is going to be a more dominant force in those team fights.
Take a look at the items as well for the rest of the Fnatic lineup. You've got double GP5 on Sona, double GP5 Olaf, double GP5 Nautilus, and we see Millenium starting a Baron Nashor. Graves and Sona are miles and miles away. Morgana's joining very, very late to this party. If Fiaz is going to be able to do a flash base stun stance, this might be in trouble. Shushay does dodge the Dark Binding. They stall for enough time to delay the Baron at the very least, but now Shushay is committing to this fight. Red buff is on. He's activated the Ragnarok. Depth charge goes out. Soraka will be the first one to fall up in the background. Xpeka should be able to pick up that kill, and he does. Now they've turned their attentions to Archegod. Shushay's taken so much damage, keeping a close eye back in the middle. Cyanide's going to be the first one to fall from Fnatic. They're very, very good crescendo, but it doesn't stop Udyr, so he does pick up a kill. All of a sudden, it's now 2 for 3. Makes that a 3 for 2 trade. Millenium are still in the lead, 3 for 4. They pick up an ace for only losing 2. Udyr and Nocturne managing to survive, managing to wrap that team fight up.
And you know, Morgana actually still has Ignite too. I always like looking at the end of fights, who still has Summoner spells, who could have made this play just a little bit better. And at the end of that fight, we have Phalux with Exhaust still, and Archegod with Ignite. So essentially a wash, 1 Summoner spell on either side. But I think, you know, what I was saying earlier kind of came to pass in that team fight. Udyr was just a much stronger presence, but I was wrong about his item build. He is going Spirit Visage now. I certainly like that. And at first, I really thought Fnatic was outplaying Millenium on all, you know, on all parts of that battle. Obviously, Cassidy gets a kill on Soraka, gets a lot of focus on him, but actually does get away, has to use Flash and Riftwalk, but then comes back into battle, does die, helps take down Corki, but I think it was just Udyr was that presence in the battle, tanked a ton of damage, but also was doing a lot of damage and was there at the end of the fight, which is obviously a very important thing.
Keep in mind the positioning as well. The positioning for Fnatic was not ideal. They had Xpeke and Cyanide sitting at the top of the river. They were trying to commit into Soraka, so they went in. Then now Shushay has been caught out. He is forced to use Ragnarok to run away. Then you had Shushay, who'd been caught out, taking a lot of damage at the beginning of the fight, and they were sitting on the right-hand side of the river, so that split and the lack of focus from Fnatic also cost them a lot of damage. They weren't able to blow anybody up, and it was evident. Udyr and Nocturne both sitting very, very low on hit points, and had they been a little bit tighter, bunched together and been able to focus a little bit more, maybe they would have been able to put some more damage down. The Cyanide is now moving up. Baron Nashor does go down, and it's stolen! It's stolen from Cassidy. Riftwalk over the wall. Heck. Nautilus goes down, and all that it cost them is a death from Nautilus. Huge play from Xpeke. That was a Riftwalk null sphere, wasn't it?
Yes, that was, and I was just like, oh, well, they're going to lose this. Really good job zoning out Cyanide, making sure he doesn't get in there, but too much focus was, on zoning out Cyanide. Nijik, doesn't land the smite there, and it was just a steal from Cassidy. That was crazy. That really kind of turns the tides of battle. Now, Millenium wants to push the advantage here, wants to go in for it, but not a good idea, not a great idea.
A really, really great and smart play by Xpeke there. Managing to Riftwalk over the wall and not only get in and steal the Baron, but he got away with his life. Managed to flash over the wall, save himself, or another Riftwalk over the wall. And the only one to go down, and that was Nautilus.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, not only did he get away, but he didn't even have flash for that whole, a whole little engage, that whole little, assassin jump in there, jump out. That was a incredible ninja move. But Rift walk in, steals Baron, Rift walks out. So that's not something that usually you think Katzinen is, a great asset on your team for doing. And generally, obviously Nullsphere doesn't outsmite Smite, but Jeez, that was just impressive. He was able to go in there and steal it and, be fairly certain that he might get away. So that, once again, incredible play. Really, that the game was lining up that, to the extent that it looked like, had Millenium taken that Baron, it would have been game over. But now it is 8-12, only a 3,000 gold difference, and Fnatic still has Baron buff.
That's the 3 dragons, hey? That's the 3 dragons. Remember, Millenium have taken all 3 dragons of the game thus far. After the Baron buff was picked up, they tried to push that middle lane, fell backwards, and picked up Dragon instead. So the only difference separating these teams thus far in terms of gold is the 3 dragons. Obviously, it was a little bit higher, but compliments of the gold from Baron buff, that pulled them a little bit closer. Look at farm, 30 CS difference in the middle, 200 to 230. That's what it's been the entire game. Olaf, 149 to 166, 20-yard difference. That's what it's been the entire game. Bottom lane, bang on even, 238 to 240. In fact, Lamia actually has a 20 CS lead, but that's not going to make up for the 3-3-3 scoreline that Ensign Vag is currently sitting on.
Yeah, and man, the more I think about that Baron buff, the more I'm impressed by it, but at the same time, I think a lot of luck went into it, because I don't think they even had sight on Baron. Obviously, Dax has that Oracle. They cleared out the wards, so Xpeke jumped in there blind to steal that with the Null Sphere, so that is incredibly impressive, and it looks like Fnatic is trying to go a little bit aggressive. Looks like they're going to push down bottom turret. I don't know if they saw someone up top and thought they would, push their advantage. It's a great idea because they have 4 of their 5 members of the team with that Baron buff. They probably feel pretty strong right now, and kind of their late game presence, what they were kind of aiming for with all those GP10 items, is finally coming to be. They have 2 reveries, so they can kind of engage and disengage at their will. Not only that, they have a very shifty team. Sona can help them kite with her movement speed bonus, and of course Katzinen can get around wherever he wants with all that rift walking.
2 free towers, move bottom, pull Millenium towards the bottom lane. As soon as Millenium get to the bottom lane, run back to middle. Great call from Fnatic, great map awareness, and that closes the gold gap from a 3,000 to a 1,500 gold difference.
Yeah, so they are absolutely back in this. Not only are they back in this, but really Corki has to be afraid at any given point. He's one of the safer carries because Valkyrie is a great escape skill. But, he can be essentially instantly given by Katzinen at this point. Katzinen, Deathcap, Rod of Ages, not going the usual Tira Goddess that you see from a lot of Kassadins or Athian's Unholy Grail, but Katzinen is just beastly at this point, has 442 AP, so that is not too shabby.
I like the way the team is shaping up at the moment as well. The tanky Olaf, yes, it's not going to be as damaging if he'd gone for maybe like a Frozen Mallet, Atmas, Warmogs type of build. But on the flip side, if he does get, the Randians is complete. Now he's got the Giant's Belt. If this starts to become a Warmogs, having that Shusha that'll be able to survive and not be instantly blown up buys Lamia and Xpeke time to deal damage. Xpeke needs to get cooldowns back on his Null Sphere and needs to stay alive in a fight for long enough to get 1 or 2 of those force pulses off. And if, Shusha is in the background dealing damage, throwing out those reckless swings over and over and over, it buys time for Xpeke to juke, to kite, to keep throwing out those Null Spheres. So we'll have to see whether or not it actually works once we hit these time fights. Arca God with a huge Dark Binding. It does land onto Shusha. Now committing forward for the fight. A flash followed up by the Soul Shackles. That is 3. The Paranoia goes forward, only managing to lock up Cyanide. And exactly like we predicted, Shusha is pulling the full attention of Millenium. Now they turn their attention. Soraka does go down in the background. Depth Charge knocks up the entire Millenium team. It's a double kill for Morgana. But unfortunately, Shusha was just too far away for Fnatic to be able to do anything more than die and unfortunately give up another kill as well.
Right, and one thing, he didn't pop his Randuin's Omen, and it's hard to, you have like 5 activatable items, so it's hard to remember to use them all, but it certainly could have popped that at some point throughout that battle, would have been beneficial to their team. But the other thing is, his build is just not generally the ideal build you would think for Olaf. That being said, they do pick up a kill on Nocturne there, so, pulling even for the fight essentially. I think that makes it a 2 for 2, does it not?
It will be, yeah. So it was 1 for 2 in the team fight, and then they picked one up, but they do lose a tower. So Corki and Soraka, I think Udyr as well, they go down bottom lane and they pick up that tower as well. And at the moment, things are looking not too bad. Shushay just has to remember to use those activists, remember about the Shirelias, to remember about the Randian's Omen. And the gold difference, 1,500. It's been around about the 2,000 mark since very early on, and right now, that's small. Right now, that's not a big play. That's not a big difference. The key for Fnatic is going to have to be, Shushay pulling everyone away like he has done already, and like we've seen him doing on Jax in a previous game. But after he's pulled the attention, Graves and Kassadin need to follow up. They need to jump in there and actually pick some kills up from Millenium. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to win the team fights.
Yeah, and I mean, such a close game, such a close game. Now we see Olaf, has he actually popped those potions? Interesting, going to have to take a look here.
They are.
Has a blue and red potion popped. So he's, I mean, very unusual build. I'm really intrigued on seeing what his next item is going to be, whether it is going to be a Warmogs or if he's going to go into a Frozen Mallet. I would kind of be more amused with the second one. And at some point, Olaf did use his Randuin's Omen. I'm very confused about that. It is on cooldown for the moment, but the last time I saw an Olaf build Reverie, I think it was Hotshot's Olaf, and he also forgot to use his Reverie during team fights. So yeah, it's hard to remember all those things in the heat of battle. I'm not a huge fan of this build on Olaf, but only time will tell and see if it really pays off. Now, he does have double potions popped, and I think, that's a good thing to learn from pro players is when there's a very important fight coming up, which there is right now, the Baron is going to be contested, then you pop those potions because it's generally worth it.
There is no vision as well. No vision as well. Millenium do not know about this. Xpeke was in the mid lane, he was poking it. If Baron is going down so quickly, that's a free Baron. Now Xpeke's jumped over the wall for Dax. He's got to be very careful about this because he's going to fight man Millenium. He flashes over the wall. See that flash? The Paranoia dives all the way forward. Xpeke manages to Rift Walk away. Is he going to be able to get away from this? Because Dustbringer is currently sitting on him. Another Rift Walk is available. Compliments of a full mana bar. He gets away. Fnatic pick up a free Baron from under the nose of Millenium. That puts them in the gold lead. That puts them in the controlling seat now with the benefit and the power that they have from the Baron Nashor buff. We've spoken a lot about builds on Olaf, but have a look at the builds on the remaining characters. Let's have a look at Sona, for example. 3 GP5s ticking, has just finished his Shirelia's Reverie now. Still has the Kage's Lucky Pick as well as a Heart of Gold. In reply, Shirelia's and Heart of Gold only on behalf of Soraka. So Sona a little bit further ahead there. Junglers, Nocturne, Aegis of the Legion, Phage, and Wriggle's Lantern. In reply, Nautilus only has the Shirelias and the Glacial Shroud. So once that's completed into a Frozen Heart, that's going to help against Corki, Udyr, and Nocturne. But he's still a little bit of gold away.
Right, and now he has 2 potions as well. They want to end this game. They're double potted up. They have Baron buff. They really want to go to town. I mean, Kassadin has a blue pot. Nautilus has 2 potions in his belt. Lamia also has a red pot on. So Fnatic really using those potions to their advantage. Really want to take advantage of this Baron buff, which they certainly should. And I mean, Millenium really kind of making a misstep there. It's funny because Fnatic the entire game not really been paying attention to Dragon enough. But then it comes down to a very crucial point, and Baron is taken without any sight coverage. And you have to realize at 30 minutes into the game, any team that's even decent at Baroning can take Baron in about 10 seconds. So at any point where there's not ward coverage, you have to be incredibly careful, make sure you keep track of everyone on the enemy team, and certainly get those wards onto Baron. So now Millenium's kind of played into a corner here. There's still 500 gold in the lead, but Baron buff is huge, and the initiating capacity of Fnatic is, I don't know, I can't even describe it. So many Reveries, 3 Reveries, a Randuin's Omen, that E movement speed bonus from Sona. They're getting around the map incredibly fast, and they can initiate at will. And Dragon apparently is just sitting around, so I'm kind of interested to see whether or not Fnatic will take their first Dragon of the game. They still seem uninterested by it.
Yeah, looking towards it, they aren't trying to push down these towers. They want to get map control. And the build that Shushay is going for, you see with the items he's got, 37.5% cooldown reduction. I think the blue pot is just one off, so it's at 25 to 27%. He's relying on those reckless swings. He's relying on Undertow and Ragnarok. You know, he's literally playing a distraction game. That is his job. That is his position. Pull away or peel off as many champions as you can. And look at the damage from Xpeke, even chewing through the defensive stats of Fios. But that is, of course, because he doesn't have a lot of magic resist. I say that, he is sitting on 141, so it is a fair number. But even so, Xpeke, he's got the Death Cap, he's got the Rod of Ages, he has a Chalice of Harmony. That is the beginnings of an unholy grail. And Xpeke is slowly being caught out.
Item.
Yeah, favorite. It's been out a day and a half, and Fnatic slowly but surely poking down this top tower.
Right, and at some point here, Nautilus is going to pop both of those potions. They're going to have a triple Reverie usage, and they're just going to go to town. We see again Dax picking up a Kindle Gem after Reverie. I don't know what that's for. Could it be for Soul Shroud? I don't even know. Some more poking going down, some decent damage going down on Corki, and he's someone you definitely don't want to have damaged.
The poke damage that's coming out from Fnatic is really, really good. And the team sustain from Sona is slightly more effective than the sustain from Soraka. She's got the single target ability. They do manage to pick up the tower. Complement to the damage that they put down onto Corki, as well as the damage, a little bit onto Udyr or whatnot, they force Millenium backwards. And Fnatic are setting the pace. Fnatic are determining when the engage is happening. Oh, Dredge line so close. There was no Black Shield on Morgana. That could have been devastating. And now Fnatic are just going to carry on with the siege.
Yeah, the thing is, Baron buff is gone though, so they probably do not want to dive a turret, despite the fact that they're all potioned up. Nautilus did pop his potions. Despite the fact that their poke is doing relatively well now Xpeke is at a point where he's below half mana. If he, tries to harass any more, he's kind of putting himself into the danger zone of mana, where he might run out of mana during a team fight. Oh, they wanted it. There was actually no Reveries to counter it, and now I guess they're going to take this fight.
There goes the silence onto Nocturne. Nightjack is taking a lot of damage. Dark Binding does get missed. Archegod is looking for a Soul Shackles. Does manage to pick up 3. Is not going to be able to stun anyone because Sona gets out of range. Olaf is under the effects of Ragnarok. The first one to go down is probably going to be Corki. Lamia is trying to pick up a kill. So many champions on low health. It is in fact Nocturne that goes down first. They've now turned their attentions to the Man-Bear Pig. Fios is trying to get away. Udyr rocks up that bear stance and turtle stance, and they've managed to catch him, pull him all the way backwards. Zhonya's hourglass has been pulled. Graves is still ticking away. The quick draw forward picks up a double kill. Fnatic, huge play. Pick up 3 kills unanswered. The split focus, the team splitting up champions, not willing to stay in the fight for too long. And Fnatic come out with a triple kill and potentially an inhibitor.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the first team fight they won, and it was still incredibly close. Good play on both sides by everyone. Oh my goodness, Xpeke is going to die here. Does go down, but Archegod taking a ton of damage from Graves.
Whew, so close. Graves hitting hard. Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, Last Whisper completed. Just melting the hit points.
Oh man,
there might be some problem for Cyanide. No, he is going to be able to get away. There goes the Shurelio's Reverie. How is the name actually spelled? I hate that item. Shurelia's. Is that
Shurelia's Reverie. Like Shurelia, the old developer. I think they're now not with Riot anymore. But they all proc the Reveries to get out of that battle there. Incidentally, another interesting thing. I love you, Suche, but I'm pretty sure Random's Omen's still not been used in team fights, and I think there were moments where it could have been used to pretty great effect. That being said, your team just won the last team fight pretty dominantly, so good show on their part. That being said, it's still 13-15, gold lead, only 2,000 in favor of Fnatic. They do have the inhibitor, but that just means, the minions are just going to be pushing towards Millenium at this point, so they might be able to catch up a little bit from that tiny deficit, the first deficit they've had all game, I believe. And who knows, maybe someone will take that dragon eventually. Poor dragon, so lonely, so very lonely, and so alone.
Nobody wants to play with it. Nobody is interested in the Game of Thrones dragons today. I like the new animation on the Elder Lizard buff when it dies. It loses that little wooden face mask of his. Pops off, flies off the head. I think it's very, very cool. So, Athene's Unholy Grail has been completed. Xpeke currently sitting 496 ability power.
They're going for a rushed Baron. Now, they're good at Baron, but they're not awesome at Baron. So they have to be a little bit worried here. Still going for it.
Staying on a 3,000 hit points, 2,000 hit points, 1,800. The flash comes off the wall. Fnatic do pick it up. Paranoia has been popped. It hasn't been dived up just yet. Corki has been taking so much damage. Wish comes out. Morgana uses an ultimate. It only catches onto Lamia. Corki knocked in on the first hit. Morgana, Soraka, Fnatic with an immense fight. That has to be GG. 60 seconds on the countdown time as they're going to be pushing this middle lane. That has to be GG.
Well, they don't need to push middle. They should just go straight top. Yeah. So likely they would have ignored those turrets down the middle, could have pushed straight top, had those super minions there, but we don't get to see their route for victory because the surrenders go in. And really, wow, great show. 2 rushed Barons. So Fnatic doesn't really pay too much attention to Dragon, but pays a lot of attention to Baron, and that apparently is a key to success. That and great team fighting ability.
Great play from Fnatic. Being on the back foot, being defensive, behind 2,000 gold for the better part of 30-odd minutes. Pulling it back right in the end there. And it just comes down to team play. It came down to positioning. It came down to the way Xpeke and Lamia were able to stay alive after that first lost team fight, after they lost their fight in the river. They positioned themselves effectively, and Xpeke and Lamia, I'm putting it on them. I think their positional play was fantastic. I think the damage they were putting out was great. And yeah, Fnatic qualified. They're going to be playing on Sunday for the next Dreamhack qualifier. And wow, Soter, what do you think of the games?
Man, all of the games today have been really stellar. And of course, Lami and Xpeke are going to, kind of come out of this and be the champions, the heroes of the game. Suche 0-3 and 12, not very impressive. Nautilus 2-5 and 11, not too impressive. Sona 1-2 and 12. It's actually a good support score. But I think mainly you have to pay attention. Yes, Lamia has a great score. Yes, Xpeke did really good, but they did really good because, Suche and Cyanide were being able to be such great distractions in the middle of those team fights. They were able to soak damage and allow, the carries, the assassins, the people who need those kills to get the kills and survive into the later portions of the team fights. So really great play overall. I would actually, the one play of the game was Xpeke's steal on Baron. That was just amazing. It was amazing steal, and it really turned the tides of the battle. Millenium had everything going for him. 3 dragons were about to pick up that Baron. Did not look like a steal was even possible. Cyanide was completely zoned out and killed, and then he just jumps in there, null spheres it, takes it away, and really ran away with the game from there.
Absolutely well played. So Fnatic make it through to Sunday. They're going to make, they are one of 8 teams that are going to be in Sunday's bracket. We're going to kick off at 2 p.m. Central European Summer Time. Just before we head off, guys, I do just want to throw up one more little bump. Soter, he's been with us all day long. He's a member of GG Chronicle. You can follow him, facebook.com/GG Chronicle, or alternatively his private Twitter account, which is twitter.com/lolzoter. Make sure you head over there, follow him, like him. You'll be able to keep an idea on what's happening and keep up to date with him. Myself, my name is Quickshot. I've been casting for a few times. I'm involved in a project called Into LOL. Head over to facebook.com/IntoLOL. It just helps me out in the next week or so. We're going to be revealing our new webpage and going live. Zoter, thanks for joining us, man. Thanks for streaming with me.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Some really great games. A lot of fun to cast with you. Hope to be back again sometime.
Yeah, fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are off for the evening. I'm going to put up some music just for a couple of minutes while I wrap myself up. Say goodbye to everybody on Skype. Zoter, it was amazing. I have you on Skype. I will definitely be inviting you back to co-cast or recast with me in future. Don't forget, guys, that was the Beat It Dreamhack Qualifiers, sponsored by MSI and SteelSeries. Mad props have to go to the admins. Sumi and Scarf, the two of them, they've been phenomenal on Tuesday. They were phenomenal again today. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you to the streamers. Good luck, have fun, good night, and we'll see you on Sunday. Cheers, Zoter.
Cheers.